एक बार मार्केट को देख लेते हैं थोड़ा, बिकॉज हायर लेवल से थोड़ा नीचे आ गया है। निफ्टी 9320 पर इस समय ट्रेड कर रहा है। निफ्टी बैंक लाल निशान में है इस समय 22302 के लेवल पर ये है। और साथ ही अगर हम मिड कैप को देखें, यहाँ पर करीब 20 अंकों की तेज़ी देखने को मिली है। निमेश, लास्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू, ये जो आपने वैल्यूएशन की बात की है, एंड आई अंडरस्टैंड आप पी की जो कंसर्न है वो है, अब इसे ही अगर आप देखें मिड कैप में या फिर स्मॉल कैप में तो वो थोड़ा और स्ट्रेस लग रहा है। एंड देयर आर कंसर्न्स कि थोड़ा ओवरबॉट जोन में है, ये वैल्यूएशन स्ट्रेस्ड है। FY18 और 19 तक की अर्निंग्स कुछ स्टॉक्स में डिस्काउंट हो चुकी है मिड कैप स्मॉल कैप में। अब आपको क्या लगता है, बिकॉज टिपिकली इन अ ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी, एक्सपैंडिंग इकोनॉमी, यही वो सेगमेंट होता है मार्केट का जो सबसे ज़्यादा आउट परफॉर्म भी करता है।
हाँ जी, आउट परफॉर्म तो करता है, बट इट विल बी अ स्टॉक पिकर्स मार्केट। आप कितनी कंपनीज उठाते हो, और आज जब आप 40 के पी पे कोई स्टॉक लेते हो, या तो जिसकी अर्निंग आज है नहीं और शेयर का दाम ज़्यादा है, अगर इस टाइप की आप कंपनी लेते हो तो आप रिस्क भी इतना ज़्यादा ले रहे हो। मैं मानता हूँ बहुत सारी कंपनियां शायद पार कर जाएगी, जो उनसे एक्सपेक्टेशन से उससे अधिक भी हो जाएगी, पर इक्वल नंबर ऑफ कंपनीज होगी जो जीरो प्रॉफिट है और जिस पे हम सोच रहे हैं कि प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बहुत बढ़ जाने वाली 3 साल में। उतना इजी नहीं है कंपनीज की प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कंप्लीटली चेंज करना। सो देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ मिस्टेक्स आल्सो इन द मार्केट द वे वी आर वैल्यूइंग इन कंपनीज टुडे। It is not possible that all these companies will increase their profits by 40%, 50% every year, the way the market is discounting them today.
जी,
So
शुक्रिया।
growth, it won't be that 10 में से 10 कंपनी में आप ग्रोथ आ जाएगा, बहुत सारी मिड कैप्स कैजुअलिटीज भी होगी।
जी, शुक्रिया निमेश आपका, आपने समय दिया जी बिजनेस को और अपने व्यूज़ आपने ब्रॉडर मार्केट पर, स्पेसिफिक सेक्टर्स पर शेयर किए। शुक्रिया आपका। अब एक और मेहमान हमारे साथ मौजूद है, मिस्टर प्रमोद गब्बी हैं एम्बेट से, उनसे बातचीत करते हैं। प्रमोद, गुड मॉर्निंग, वेलकम टू जी बिजनेस। अभी ओवरऑल आपका इक्विटी मार्केट्स पर व्यू है क्या, वैल्यूएशंस के लिहाज से, जो फंड फ्लो की सिचुएशन उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए, क्योंकि एक बार फिर से हम ऐसे फेज में हैं जहां पर एफआईज बिकवाली कर रहे हैं और डीआईएस की ओर से सपोर्ट आ रहा है। सो वैल्यूएशन वाइज, इन्वेस्टमेंट सेटअप वाइज आपको मार्केट लग कैसा रहा है?
Yeah, I mean, the same dichotomy continues, the flows versus valuation or other fundamentals in general, including earnings and valuation. Flows continue to be strong. It's a great market to be in where, FIs and DIs take turns to support the market in terms of flows. And both continue to have fairly strong flows. Domestically, we've talked about the structural change where there's a structural shift from physical savings to financial savings, where this sort of flows into financial markets should sustain over the long term. There might be a few sort of setbacks in the shorter term, but it looks like this trend is more longer term in nature. At the same time, flows into emerging markets have also remained pretty strong as far as foreign flows are concerned. So to that extent, flows by and large remain okay, except I guess one needs to keep an eye on China, given what's happened over the last couple of months in terms of the clamping down on shadow banking, which have had its own implication in terms of commodities. Commodities have had a sort of a correction over the last couple of months, including crude and base metals. That space needs to be watched to understand how the foreign flows will revert, if at all. But even otherwise, like I said, because domestic flows have been so strong, it is a fairly decent downside protection for the market. However, there's no similar protection coming from the fundamental side. Given this sort of rally, we haven't seen a commensurate recovery in either economic growth nor earnings. There is a recovery, no doubt, but the extent of the recovery doesn't simply stack up. And to that extent, it is hard for a fund manager to look at the market and justify the current levels, given the valuations and the lack of earning support.
Pramod, quickly, some of the stocks, or I would say sectors, जहाँ पर हमने काफ़ी vibrancy देखी है, one of them is obviously auto. इसमें there are stocks like Maruti या फिर Eicher Motors who are constantly outperforming. इन stocks पर आपका view क्या है?
I mean, look, autos is a structural play in most markets, be developed or emerging. We've seen decade after decade, autos tend to outperform the rest of the market. And to that extent, in India also, it's no different. I think autos are in a very strong structural growth market, particularly four-wheelers. And within that, you've had some really good companies with strong brands and distribution, and also backing it up with a strong product portfolio. To that extent, I think valuations apart, in terms of near-term outlook, but the longer-term growth runway and the strength of the companies in question and their competitive advantage, four-wheelers is definitely a place to be. iShares, on the other hand, I guess it's a bit more niche play in a segment where there's hardly much competition. That continues to be supply driven. We don't really know the real demand for the Enfield bikes given the capacity shortage, so they continue to pretty much sell everything that they can produce. So that's an indication of the strength of the brand and the underlying demand there. So while you cannot generalize the strength of Enfield into the broader two-wheeler space, I think it is a niche which hasn't seen much competition coming in. So until we see that sort of a competition, I think iShares will be on a strong footing.
जी प्रमोद, ये फाइनेंशियल थीम को आप कैसे प्ले कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमने छोटे प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स में अच्छी रैली देखी है, हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कंपनीज के स्टॉक्स में एक अच्छा रुझान रहा है, एनबीएफसीज ने भी काफ़ी स्ट्रांग परफॉर्मेंस दिखाई है. हालांकि बहुत स्पेसिफिक होना ज़रूरी है इस पूरे ही सेगमेंट में, लेकिन एज अ थीम आप कैसे प्ले कर रहे हैं, कौन सी पॉकेट ज़्यादा बेटर लग रही है अभी?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one again, but because it is a structural theme where if you can look beyond the here and now in terms of the current valuations and the earnings, because it is a structural theme, you can take a longer term view in some of these sectors. I talked about the structural theme of shift of physical savings into financial savings. So any sort of intermediary who is in that value chain where you are enabling the shift from physical savings to financial savings will tend to benefit over the longer term. We particularly like the segment where you have an element of intermediation in the form of asset management, life insurance, or even broking and distribution of financial products. That's going to be a big theme given the lack of penetration of these products into the Indian economy. So some of the brokers / asset managers could be perhaps the best way to play this. The balance sheet heavy NBFCs and small finance banks, I guess you do need to be cognizant because of potential asset quality issues given the sort of rapid pace of growth that we've seen in an economy that hasn't been particularly strong in terms of a secular growth, but in fact has been sort of given a bit of a jolt from demonetization, move towards GST, where a lot of unorganized businesses will face the heat. And if you're an NBFC or a small finance bank or a regional bank which have been exposed to that sort of an SME sector, at these valuations, I don't think you're reflecting all the asset quality risks. So I would be sort of reluctant to get any exposure to small finance banks or MFIs in particular, or NBFCs who are catering to that sort of a space affected by demonetization. So I would rather play it through asset managers, brokers and life insurance companies.
One last question, Pramod, if at all markets were to correct from here, what kind of downside do you suspect?
I mean, like I said, given flows, it's hard to see a downside from here. So, but however, from a valuation support perspective, I would think a sort of a 10% correction, or even a time correction, like if the market remains sideways for the next 12 months, that could be a realistic scenario, given flows won't perhaps allow any sort of a steep correction, but at the same time valuations don't justify a runaway rally even from here. So my sense is the more sort of base case scenario is the market hovers around here for the next 12 months.
जी, शुक्रिया प्रमोद आपका बातचीत करने के लिए, ज़ी बिजनेस और अपने व्यू शेयर करने के लिए.